Hello again, and welcome to part 2 of creating the player controller. In this video segment, we're going to be looking at creating the player movement. In the last part, we created the first person look to control the camera movement using the mouse or the joystick inside of the scene. Alright, so we already have the whole player controller set up. We got the player controller with the character controller script. We're going to create another script that's going to go here that's going to handle the player movement by accessing this character controller component. Alright, so let's go to the scripts and create a new C# script. And this is going to be called player controller. And let's open this up inside of Visual Studio. And inside of Visual Studio, what we're going to do is we're going to create a couple of variables at the top of our class here. The first one's going to be a public character controller. Character controller. And we're going to call this player controller. And we're also going to need a variable for speed. So we'll create a public float, and this will be for speed. Alright, so we've got the two main variables at least, that we need for movement. Next thing we need to do is capture the player input for the W, A, S, and D keys. So to do that, we're going to have to create two float values similar to the way we did with the camera script in the last video. So we'll type in float, and this is going to be for the z-axis. So actually, I'm sorry, x-axis. And I'm going to set this equal to input.getAxis. Horizontal. And if you remember from the last video, this is one of the predefined axes in the input axes. You can actually copy this value and paste it down below. Oh, horizontal. And this is what's going to be vertical. Alright, and this is going to be for Z, the Z-axis, because we're going to move along the Z. Moving in the Y would make us jump. Okay, and we're going to do jumping in the next video. So we've got these two inputs. Now when you use getAxis, basically it returns a value between 0 and 1, and it ramps up and ramps down when you press the key and release it. So when you press it, it goes, 0.1, 0.2, 0.3, 0.4, 0.5, 0.6, all the way up to 1. And then when you release it, it goes back down to 0. Same thing with the horizontal and vertical axes. So if you're pressing down, it's going to go negative. So it goes from 0.1 to -1. Negative 0.1 to -1. If you use getAxis raw, which is another value that you can use here, another method that you can use here, getAxis raw returns immediately a 1 or a 0. So if you need like more snappier movement or sharper movement, you might want to use getAxis raw. But for this particular situation, we're just going to use getAxis. Now, to get our player moving, we're going to need a variable here to get them moving, and that's going to be a vector3. So we're going to store this in vector3. Vector3 basically stores 3 float values, an x, y, and z value, but those x, y, z values can be used for pretty much anything. It just stores 3 float values inside of it. It's typically used for, like I said, doing things like movement and transforms and that sort of thing. So we got the vector3 for move, and we're going to set this equal to transform.right, which would be the x-axis. So we're going to multiply that by x, and then we're going to add that with transform.forward, and we're going to multiply that by z. So that's going to basically coagulate that entire vector into a vector 3 value that we can use to move our player around. Alright, so next thing we're going to do is call the player controller function for move. So call player controller, this is a character controller function, so player controller dot move, and we're going to take move, and we're going to multiply it by speed, and then multiply it by time dot delta time. Alright, and then we're gonna, I think that's all we need. Yeah, that's all we need here, is these 4 values to basically get it moving. So let's save this, and let's head back over to Unity, and we'll select our player controller, and let's drag and drop our player controller script onto it. And I'm going to give this a speed of 15. Alright, so let's hit play. And I should be able to look forward, and if, oops, I forgot to assign that value there. So I forgot to assign this value a player controller, so let's just drag and drop this into here, and then hit play. Looking down for some reason, and there it is. Pretty neat. So we can move around, and basically I can collide with the object, but I can't like bounce off of it or anything like that. I'm going to try and maximize on play real quick. And there it is, yep. We can increase the sensitivity, decrease the sensitivity and option screen and all that as well. Alright. So we're able to look, we're able to move in the direction we're looking in. In the next video, part 3, we'll implement the jumps that we can jump. I'll see you in the next one.